Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Teach, Sleep, Repeat. My name is Dylan.
And my name is Hayden. And it's a special occasion today, isn't it?
Why?
Because we're celebrating St. Patrick's Day. Which was a month ago.
Okay, everyone who's not watching, because we are back on video this week. We had a little hiatus last week, we'll talk about that in a second, but we are both wearing the greenest of green tops, but you've got something extra on yours.
Oh, I got a bit of baby dribble on mine. And it's River's birthday today.
Oh, you're going to say it's River's baby dribble?
It's her birthday. You get a birthday every month in your first year.
Yeah.
She's 5 months old today.
Yeah. Well, actually, my 27-week-old will beg to differ.
Anyway, not interested. So... How are you, mate? You all right?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm really good.
Excellent.
Can I tell you a funny story from this week?
Straight up,
That
let's
involves
go.
you.
Go on. It involves me?
It involves you. Well, it's about you.
Yeah, of course.
If
Do you have any stories that aren't about me? Why are you so obsessed with me?
My life is you.
Yeah, thought so.
As you will know, if you've listened to our podcast for a while, we have a lot of banter at school between us, between our classes.
I hate that word, banter.
Do you hate the word banter?
I really hate it now, yeah.
That's really
we have a
funny.
lot of banter. It's like, as soon as you say we have banter, it's like you've got none. As soon as you have to say it.
Shut up. What are you talking about?
Go on.
Anyway, so at school, as always, if I'm on duty, I know I'm going to get harassed by a bunch of year 4 children who will inevitably, there's something that's happened that week where you've just rinsed me. Like the other day, by the way, I was just walking to my class and a bunch of kids were like, Mr. Stevens! And they're all waving little pictures of my head above that from the other week. And I was like, for God's sake.
We had a visitor in school and one of the kids was they got right around the circle introducing themselves. I'll talk more about this in a minute. And it got to this child and he didn't introduce himself. He just went, I've got a picture of Mr. Stevens. No idea
As if this stranger cares.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I'm outside. Kids coming up to me and generally being annoying, and I was like, well, hang on. You know, they're throwing all these things at me. And I said, has Mr. Price surely told you, right? And they were like, what? I was like, he probably hasn't actually. He's quite insensitive about this anyway. and I was acting up, you know. And I just said, do you know when he was younger? You know, like Tarzan, who was found in the jungle, was raised by wolves and all that stuff, whatever it is.
Have you watched Tarzan?
Is it Tarzan that's that?
Famously raised by apes.
Oh wait, what's the one that's raised by?
He's doing Mowgli.
Mowgli, yeah. Jungle Book, that's the one. Wolves. I know something in the jungle. George of the Jungle.
George who swings through the trees, raised by apes. Have you heard of Tarzan raised by parrots? He was. He just repeats what you say.
Classic Tarzan. Anyway, George of the Jungle, raised by wolves. and I said to them, do you know who Mr. Price was raised by? They were like, what? No. I was like, he was raised by onions. And they were like, what? I was like, yeah, he was raised by a family of onions. And they were like, what? That's mad. And they were just going mental about this idea that you were raised by onions. Like, yeah, have you not noticed people cry when they're around him? You know, he was raised by onions when he was younger. And then one of them threw it back at me perfectly, and I was like, oh. They were like, oh, that's weird because you're brothers, so you were as well then.
Got ya.
Like, oh, do I want to get rid of the other lie that we've built up that we're brothers? That was just funny. Your kids, honestly, your year 4s are mad.
Yeah, I love them. I love them
funny.
so much. Like, and when people cover them, there's a cover supervisor in year 4, obviously, and whenever she covers them, Hannah, she always says to me, I love your class. Yeah. Because they must be such a joy to cover because they're so funny and nice and lovely.
They are funny.
I think we've got a really good relationship and I love classes like that. I have something about them. I really, really like that.
Can I just say welcome as well to all the new listeners? We had a big spike in listeners last week after our Mrs. Smith episode.
Good job you did a story based on the whole, story of me and you giving banter to all the children.
Well, now you can go back and find out a bit more about our banter that Dylan loves.
I really liked that episode of Mrs. Smith. She was great. She was lovely. And welcome if you're a new listener. On the back of that, and I it's obviously linked, I'm sure, but I've never actually checked the charts of the podcast before. And you were talking about the charts. I think you were talking to someone else. I can't remember who.
I was talking to Martin Malone, who we had on before. He mentioned the charts, and I thought, I've never actually looked at that.
Because him and Poppy, I think Poppy Gibson, her name is, they've started a teach podcast as well. He's doing bits. Obviously, he was on our show. He's a
I think it's called Not Another Teacher Podcast.
Yeah, Not Another Teacher Podcast.
Check it out. It's very funny.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny because there's a lot of teacher podcasts in there. It's like, another teacher podcast. But yeah, obviously you were talking to him about the charts, and I said on the reel, I posted saying we don't have iPhones, so like I'm out of the loop of the Apple charts anyway, and I just thought I'd check because I've got an iPad. And we were charting 32 in education.
Amazing.
Like in the UK. And that is nuts to me. Like, and I actually looked, you can see what your peak chart was. And we peaked at 26.
That's amazing.
And it's down to you guys listening and sharing.
It's down to me. You're making good content. Give the credit to them. Christ almighty.
No, it's down to you guys. Don't listen to this guy. So thanks for listening. And if you haven't already, it really, really helps us if you just do leave a review. I know I say it all the time, but I can't explain to you
Especially
how.
on Apple.
Yeah.
Our Apple reviews are low, man.
Yeah, whereas because we've been pushing Spotify and doing links to Spotify all the time, Apple actually, I think it's overtaking Spotify's listeners. And you can't even watch on Apple. So if you're on Apple, all these jokes you make about videos just go over your head. It's not even on there.
Can you not watch on Apple?
No, it's only on Spotify you can watch.
Oh, I didn't know that. Just presume that went to all the platforms.
Oh, and it's definitely your fault that we're doing really well. We don't even know how the podcast works.
I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, we charted. We're 26. We're still in the top 100. So guys, the more you can share, if you enjoy the podcast, we would absolutely love that. And another milestone, whilst we're talking ourselves up a little bit.
Go on then.
Anyone who listens to us in the past knows, I think one of our first ever episodes, and one of our most popular episodes, by the way, it's in the top 10 of our episodes in terms of plays, is how tutoring helped us go part-time. So anyone who doesn't know, Hayden and I work part-time in school, Monday to Wednesday. And we were able to do that because when we were working full-time and young and wanting to put 1,000 hours a week into something, we also built a tutoring business on the side, which allowed us then to go part-time because we replaced our money basically. And, you know, we had a whole discussion, should we just go full-time into that? It's a tough one because we love teaching, there's benefits, etc. But we can talk about that another time. The point being though, we have a tutoring business, and part of that tutoring business is we make content online on YouTube that's free. And we've been doing a big SATs push at the minute. We tend to split our year between 11 plus preparation and SATs preparation because they're kind of 6 months apart. At the minute, big push for SATs, and we have gone past 10,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is insane to us. I know to a lot of people listening, maybe you think, well, I watch someone who's got millions. Okay, I know. But, you know, for us, 10,000, that first 10,000 is tough.
Yeah, and we were just doing it for fun, really. We've always just been doing it for fun. We've never really had an aim with it. So it's quite cool to see that.
And it does make us money now. And I think very quickly, I'm just wondering, people out there would be interested, because I certainly used to be very interested in, you know, what does that actually translate to? Because I was having a conversation with my family just talking about it, because I don't really talk about business with people other than you, genuinely, unless they bring it up and are interested and want to ask. I don't want to be that guy who's just like, oh, by the way, this is happening and that. So I don't want to be that person. But they were asking about it, and they were shocked we even made money from YouTube. They didn't even think that was a thing.
YouTube is so good for making ad money.
It's fantastic.
They've got a very good system.
Yeah, I know. So very briefly, the ad system is essentially of the 100% of money that comes in from people paying to place ads on stuff, YouTube keeps 45% and the creators keep 55%.
Oh, I didn't actually know that was the breakdown.
Yeah. So that's the breakdown. So whatever we make, you can roughly double. And YouTube's taking that cut as well.
Yeah, sure.
But, you know, our channel, so we've got 10,000 subs. We recently went past 1 million views total on our channel, which was another great milestone to go past. But at the minute, we're getting about 100 to 120,000 views a month. Okay. So that translates to £450. Yeah. So, you know, we are currently making just genuinely passively, I suppose, at this point. We're still making content, but most of the money is coming from old videos where people are watching again. £400 to £500, and that's just on 120,000 views a month.
Yeah, and we're tiny. We're a tiny channel.
We're a tiny channel, and you just think of all those people out there, like Mr. Beast, who puts a video out and within a day has 20 million. The amount of money there is to make on YouTube is nuts.
So when the kids at school say, I want to be YouTubers, it's really hard for us to be like, no, don't, when we've got 200 videos on our channel, and we're like, no, don't do that. It's a waste of time. Actually, I
tell you what, they do think that we're celebrities, don't they?
I know, it's so funny. It's so funny. You replied to a comment on YouTube the other day, just someone, and they're like, oh, I never thought you would reply. And they were like, as if we're massive YouTubers.
I'm just a geezer. I was probably sat in the toilet. Right?
Well, have I ever told the story in this podcast? Probably, because I forget everything. Of when I was on a residential trip. Have I told that story?
You told this story, yeah.
I'm going to tell it again. I was on a residential trip.
So it didn't matter if you told it or
not. No, I was just wondering if I had. I was thinking, I hope it's new. Yeah. So for new listeners, I was on a residential trip last year or the year before with the year sixes, a classic overnight stay. And the place I was at was obviously filled with kids. If you've been on a residential, you know it's just carnage. There's thousands of kids from different schools. And I was just waiting around with my class. We were waiting for our next activity, and some random kid from another school came up to me, and I felt so good, and just was like, "Oh, are you that guy from TD Tutoring YouTube channel?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am." And he was like, "Oh, cool. I watched your videos. They were really helpful. Thanks."
Oh, that's so sweet.
And my whole class were there, and they were just like gobsmacked. They were like, "Oh my god, I didn't realise we were in the presence of an insanely famous man."
Had 7 views that video.
yeah. So that was kind of cool. But no, YouTube's good.
That is awesome. You wanted to mention something about River?
I've already said that.
Not
She's 5 months.
Oh, I blank everything you say about her because I don't
do you
care.
hear that? I'm keeping that. I'm not editing that. I did a whole thing. You literally came back with, my son is weeks old. What's wrong with you?
I just hear something about your child and I just switch
Unbelievable.
off instantly.
That is our life, guys. Anyway,
Honestly.
you talk about your week, mate, because
Okay.
you know what you've done? You've had a theatre group in your class as well.
I like that little subtle, anyone who's not watching the video, a little subtle turn to the screen.
Yeah,
to see what
just having a look at the notes that you've got.
I wanted to chat about this. So I'm hoping this leads into a bit of a conversation as well, because my favorite podcasts are where we do just kind of ad lib this stuff. We are going to talk later about professionalism. Obviously, if you click this, the title is about being professional as a teacher and what's acceptable.
Sorry, I love the idea that you gave the impression that we don't always ad lib it. As if we ever do any more than this Microsoft Word document of bullet points.
If anyone can't see, in front of us now is a Word document that I promise you is less than 30 words long.
we write it 5 minutes before we record every single time.
We give this impression that we're like really thought through every week. Really, no, we think of a theme and we just chat rubbish. But
I've got something to add to it actually.
yeah,
Add this live. Didn't you want to play? Didn't you want to play a game?
I did want to play
a game at the end. I've added the game.
Okay, so you listen to the end. We've got a little game to play. Kick Theatre is the name of a company who are local to us, going to lots of schools. And this guy called Ian comes in, and Ian's someone that I've known and you've known since we started teaching.
Yeah, he's been every school we've been at.
Every single school we've been at, and he always does this theatre kind of like workshop where the children come in.
Yeah.
And the way it works is that he will tailor his workshop to what topic you want to do. And he'll also tailor his workshop based on where you are in that topic. So if you're at the start of a topic of Egyptians, which we are, for example, he came in and did an hour, almost like it was honestly like a masterclass in just giving the children loads of facts to get them started and find out what they already know. But at the same time, which I think is lacking in our curriculum massively, is the amount of teamwork, communication, problem solving, which was going on live during this drama was unbelievable. And I just wanted to basically shout him out and say, he is a master at what he does. And this is another example of how enrichment's so good for the kids, because I swear to you, we get 32 kids in the hall. He always gets them to sit in a circle at the start, and all he's got is just a symbol that he hits. And when he hits it, the kids sit down, right? That is it. And he just talks about using space, using imagination. And he takes these kids on a journey. And if I think back about it, if I think about this, what the children went through, I vividly remember them building a pyramid. And I vividly remember them mummifying someone.
Yeah.
None of this actually happened though, and there was no props. There was no toilet roll to mummify. There was no blocks to build.
Just imagination.
Everything was imagination. Everything was communication. He gave out roles, and in the meantime, he's not got a script. He's walking around the room giving facts about ancient Egypt, quizzing the children, asking them. He knows everything about it because he just has done it so often that he's just an expert now.
It's funny because in my class we use our imagination as well. It works, doesn't it? Because we imagine that we've got glue. We pretend to stick in our sheets. We imagine we've got new pens, and we pretend our pencils are pens.
Only it doesn't really
works.
hold up when book scrutinies happen. Welcome to the land of
It's fine. We
make-believe.
imagine we've got new books as well. We haven't even got them.
We imagine there's book scrutiny. In fact, me and you aren't teachers. We just imagine that we're teachers.
This guy.
We spend 10 hours a day in a room pretending to teach. But no, I thought it was great. And I think the best thing about it was, as a teacher, he led it. So as their teacher, I could sit back, and obviously I was taking pictures of them acting and their freeze frames and stuff like that. But I could just sit back and just watch how they interact with each other without trying to think, oh gosh, I've got to get through this lesson. I've got to make sure they write this down. And actually then I've got to prove that they know something, because they couldn't possibly know anything unless they write at the end of the lesson the answer to the question that I've been learning about. No, tell you what, in that hour, I promise you, they learned more in that hour than they have learned in any hour slot of any topic lesson.
Really?
Yeah, genuinely.
About what though?
About the Egyptians. And about problem solving, and about communication, and about skills of working.
And why do you think that is then? Because you obviously in your hour sessions of doing Egyptians will just drill
engagement
to them. Do you think that's it?
I think engagement's huge, and I think doing is better than thinking. And no matter
For
what,
everyone?
For most children, yeah. And I think obviously you need a mixture. But what I'm saying is, as the teacher stepping back, maybe pure Egyptian knowledge, it was not as much, maybe. Because an hour of me just telling them facts. But there'll be some children who absolutely picked up way more in that. And those children are the ones who will get lost in the classroom in the traditional sense. And we're going to talk a lot about modernizing teaching. And this is one way, a different way, I suppose, teaching needs to be modernized, is just less Victorian, let's stand back, let's teach her the facts. It's such a fact-driven curriculum at the minute where, okay, this lesson we're going to learn all about Tutankhamun, which could be so interesting. You could talk about Lord Carnarvon, I think his name is, who went, funded the expedition for him to go and find him. And you could talk about his reign and how we don't know how he died, but all these theories that are based on historical understanding and what we excavated and what we found and how we can interpret sources. Like, that's an amazing conversation you can have with these kids. But I think the way you do it is so important, and I think you have to have a mixture of different ways of doing stuff. And I don't believe in kinesthetic learners, and because that's been debunked a million times. Everyone learns in all ways, but some people. But
mnemonics, I do believe in.
Yeah, mnemonics, like, absolutely.
Learning certain things in different ways. It's not just here is the fact, learn it in your brain, and actually just having a funny way. They'll remember it because they'll remember making a pyramid out of their body.
Completely.
That will help them remember the fact that was tied to that. Like that's a mnemonic, isn't it? That's different to the whole kinesthetic. What was that? It used to be kinesthetic, auditory, and visual learning, wasn't it?
Yeah, you had to and the point of that was each child was labelled with it.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're a kinesthetic learner, and it was like you couldn't possibly learn in a different way. It's like you're just boxing people off straight away.
It's way more complex than that. It doesn't work. It doesn't mean anything.
And I have this example of how what we're saying is definitely true because it happened to me. Because I still remember in primary school, Roman Day, where we all wore togas, which was really cool anyway. And we just took a pillowcase, and I had a rope around me because they used to like tie things around them, obviously. And the person running it got me and this other girl up to the front who also had a rope around her. And he said, I remember him vividly saying to me, now you've been chosen because the knot you've tied around you represents a knot that would have been tied if two people got married. So me and her got married.
Wow.
And now I remember, I remember that.
Yeah, because it's funny.
And I'm trusting that he knew what he was talking about because I remember that and I hope that's true. Yeah. But the point being, with quality input
he just wanted to embarrass you.
Yeah, maybe. But from quality input from professionals and, he's an actor. He is an actor, Ian. And he talks about space and stuff. It was just fantastic. And I just basically wanted to put out there again, like, if we didn't know already, these things are worthwhile. If there's any SLT out there with spare money, this is what you should spend it on.
I love the idea of all the adults around the room being like, wow, it turns out everyone's a kinesthetic learner in here. It's like, no, they're just engaged. They're not engaged when you sit them down for an hour and a half and get as many facts out as you can at them. Most kids find that really boring. And I am worried that that's where the curriculum's going.
It's already
gone. Like, I am worried that we've just gone way too far down the rabbit hole of... the quantity of facts is more important than the engagement and enjoyment of the learning process.
It's crazy.
We've said it before, but so I won't go on about it. But
you're right though. It's worth saying because I think that the act of learning has so many more benefits than remembering a fact.
Yeah, 100%.
Because
does anyone genuinely? Is there a single person in the world? Maybe there is, who actually needs to know
the beast
X amount of facts about.
Yeah, the beast from the chase.
The beast from the chase.
He needs to know.
You one who wants to be a millionaire. But realistically, is there does anyone need to know?
The Cinnamon from the chase.
Okay, I give up. The
vixen. The vixen from the chase. She needs to know this stuff.
Apart from everyone from the chase and you from Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, is there anyone who needs to know ancient Egyptian facts? Really, needs to know?
A history teacher.
History. Okay. They can impart the same fact. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, isn't that so funny? It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? When you're like, if you're an expert at something useless, it is like a self-fulfilling thing of like, well, you need to know this because you might be a teacher one day. You might be me telling someone else. That's not a reason to know it.
Can we just cancel the whole line?
Why don't you go and build a house instead of telling me?
Yeah, because it's different, isn't it? Because kids will say to me in maths, they'll say, "Why do we need to know this?" And I think I don't know about you. I'm going to ask you right now. My response, I think, is different in that subject to when it's in a history, and it's like, why do we need to know this fact? What would you say to the same question in maths or history?
I think it's more useful to take away the subjects in that point and look at what they're learning and what they're doing. So what you're basically saying there is a difference between a problem-solving process and knowing a fact. So I think. I genuinely, if we were to take maths now and you're saying, well, in maths, I would always answer it differently. Well, actually, in maths, if they ask me, why do I need to know how many sides a nonagon has? I would probably say to them, you don't really. That would be my point.
Unless you are the beast of the case. And then the question comes up.
Yeah, you do need to know. But then with history, on the flip side, if we were learning how to interpret a source and its validity and how much we can trust it, I would then say, no, this is a skill that's really useful because when you're older, you're going to have to interpret the news and where that's come from. So I think in general, maths is more of a problem-solving process.
Skill.
So in general, you can say, okay, that's useful because X. And in general, history's become this fact. And in general, you can say that's a waste of time. But I think what good teaching does is, in history, you do a lot more of the strands of the skills, I think, of how to interpret sources, how to understand civilization, how to understand the
sequence of events and the impact it has on society, those kind of things.
Exactly, cause and effect and things like that.
And how you can relate that to now. Like that, I love those kind of history lessons where you put it back to, we're learning about this because we can now use that lens to like look at our society now.
And that's what history is. History always, there's a saying, history always repeats itself. Yeah. So if you're doing a history lesson, I think you have to go in with the mindset of it's teaching the children actually how humans interact and behave. Yeah. That is what history is. And I did a history degree. And
I forgot about that.
I know a little bit of history, but this is a good point though, because people always say to me with my history degree, they're like, "Oh, all right then, who was the Chinese emperor in 2000 BC?" I'm like, I don't know. Like a history degree isn't just me learning all of the history. I don't just know all of the facts. But what we did learn about, the very first module we did when we did the history degree was called historiography, and it was the history of history. And the whole point was like over time how, history has developed from, but it's still like got bias and it's understanding that bias and who wrote it. But it's like over the times how written history was used to morph people's opinions of what happened. History is written by the winners kind of thing. Of course, if you think about the, the ancient Greeks who quashed loads of different revolts and things, the people revolting were always painted as barbarians. They're barbarians. They didn't have a culture. They were they did child sacrifice and stuff like that. Well, that's written by the Greeks. So can we actually fully trust that? Do we actually have any history from the people themselves? Because it could be very different. And I think that skill is something in a primary school you'd strip back massively, but it has to be in a fun learning environment where they're learning things that are true, but in the context of a wider skill set.
Yeah. I like how, backfired is the wrong word, but how that line of thinking has almost gone too far in like modern day. Because then you get kids coming in and saying, well, actually, I don't trust any sources. Maybe the earth is flat. Because actually, I didn't write that textbook back in the whatever hundreds about discovering the world is round. And maybe everyone that didn't think that was just quashed. And actually, it is flat. It's
like saying the world is round is also a leap of faith. Okay, kids, looks like we're finishing history and we're doing a science lesson now.
No, we're not learning about Andrew Tate. It's just all the rubbish.
We're not in the Matrix. It's just a fact. Okay, can we observe? Oh, God, I'm not going to get started. It's a whole holistic approach. You're absolutely right. It's hilarious. I think skills for the afternoon are the most important thing. And having fun, because they're 8.
100%. We've said it before. Primary schools, in my opinion, it has no job other than to get kids to enjoy subjects. That is it. I think that is the absolute only point of it. And if whatever you're doing, if there's a better way of getting them to enjoy this, do that one. Because I just want them to leave school enjoying it. I don't need an 8-year-old to know.
So I've got a quick story based on this.
Okay.
So before and after we had our theatre session, we had like 20 minutes either side. So beforehand, I just showed them I think it was a BBC bite-size introduction to ancient Egypt. Just a very quick overview, and I just chatted to them about what they know. We went into Kick Theatre, and during Kick Theatre, obviously Ian's there explaining everything. And the kids knew a lot about mummification. And he was really vividly describing the mummification process. And it was like gory. The kids were like, because you have to slice the side, take the guts out. And he was like taking the guts out like he was a magician, like ribbon, how long the guts are. And then you put them in a canopic jar. And the reason he had to do that is because they wanted to take it with them in the afterlife. And that was the only way to get through. It's so important. We had to put it in a jar. And then the heart, we weighed it against the feather of truth. And it was all about if you were a good person, the scale would go one way. And then they put the heart back in because they didn't think that was actually that important. Blah, blah, blah. And then mummification happened and they would string it around and the kids honestly so engrossed asking questions all the time. And they'd embalm them and they'd do all this gross stuff. And someone said, what? They put gloves on, didn't they? And he was like, no, this is ancient Egypt. This is thousands of years ago. They didn't have anything. They did it with their bare hands. They literally just went in, took it and put it in the canopic jar, moved on, mummified them. And this whole thing happened and this whole process went on. And then he talked about the crocodiles, people who were caught raiding tombs went to the crocodiles and then they were hung over by their head and they'd be snapped like that.
Gross stuff.
All this gross stuff. And it was so brilliant. And then afterwards we went back out and I was just talking to the kids and I said, right, on your tables, I want you to discuss with each other. And and I said, how long's the River Nile? Because he said it's 6,700 kilometers.
Straight into a boring fact.
Yeah, but this is the point. I wanted to see what they remembered because it was engulfed in this like play. And I wanted to say, what's the mummification process? Okay. And I said to them, what animals might you see in ancient Egypt? And they were going, crocodile. Someone put their hand up. And they said, a bear. I was like, what? Where'd you get that from? It's like, a bear. I was like, what? No, they don't think there are any bears in it. Well, yeah. How did they mummify them without the bare hands?
Oh, brilliant.
Because he said they did it he mummified them. No, they did it with their bare hands.
Oh, I just love the idea that kids, I used to do that stuff all the time. I don't know about you. I'd always just get the wrong.
He just sat in the corner thinking, wow, they chopped off a bare hand just to mummify.
Yeah, wow, they used that because they didn't have gloves. He's probably thinking, logically, like, they didn't have gloves, so they had to use something other than their hands. So you got the bare hands.
They put bare hands on.
So I guess bare hands are massive. Yeah, it makes sense to me.
They didn't have plastic gloves in ancient Egypt, but obviously they had bears.
That's so funny. Do you remember the other year when he came in? Now, just for context, Ian is probably between 20 and 30 years older than me. Mm-hmm. Right? So, a different age. Yeah. I'd like to think that you'd be able to tell that we're not of the same generation.
This is on the same theme of when that person asked them, have you got vaccinated yet?
Yeah, we'll tell that as well. So, the other year, about 2 years ago, wasn't it? Ian was coming in to do with your class.
Yeah, year threes at the time.
His things, and one of your kids said to you, "Go and take over," because you remember it.
Why is our history teacher? No, Ian wasn't coming in. That's the point.
Oh no, it was me.
Ian
Sorry, it was me in my car.
He just said, "Why is our history teacher coming in?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "What? Kids, I'm their history teacher." I was like, "What are you on about?" Because Ian always does history stuff, basically with topic. And I was like, "What are you on about? Why is it? What do you mean? Why is our history? I'm your history teacher." It's like, no. That guy who came in into history was in the hall, and he meant Ian. And I was like, "Oh, Ian's in, is he?" No. This kid, when I told you, had just seen you turn up.
Because I waved at some year 3 kid in the morning as I was driving past.
And he thought it was Ian.
I was so insulted. I was like, come on, 20 years.
It's at least 20 years.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But he's so good. He's so good at what he does. And I would, anyone in the East Kent area, I don't know how far they go, get him in your school. He is so good. It was a masterclass, genuinely. I was in awe of the ability to pull that out of genuinely nothing.
Well, we've said before, haven't we? We talked about PE.
Yeah.
We've talked about the power of specialists, and that is just another perfect example of the power of a specialist teacher, specialist drama teacher, doing something to a way higher level than I could. And he didn't use props.
No props.
I'd spent ages preparing this thing, all these props and stuff, and it still wouldn't even be remotely as fun.
No. Because I guess the other problem is we'd be thinking, we haven't written anything down. Yeah. Those kids wrote nothing down.
Got a smart notebook.
Yeah, unbelievable. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. And another reason why enrichment is so important, and the more budgets are squeezed, the less kids get of this. It's so important for them to get it. Hayden, shall we crack on to our main topic?
Let's do it.
So professionalism as a teacher, it always gets people talking. What is professionalism? I think we all agree that, as teachers, we do need to have a certain level of professionalism. It's a job, that at least was widely respected, and that idea of a teacher, if you said to someone, what does a teacher look like, you immediately think of something, I think.
Yeah,
and there's a bit of a pressure to kind of meet that. And I suppose what I'm saying is here, I've had a really, introspective thing for years now, because for anyone who doesn't know, before I was a teacher, I got a tattoo on my leg. I've got a tattoo on my arm. You can see the bottom of it here if you're watching the video. And that was before I decided I wanted to be a teacher. And I've kind of been battling this with myself for a long time. And I really want to know where you all stand, and Hayden, where you stand on this. Because there is a unwritten rule, I'd say, at the minute with teaching, where it's absolutely cannot show tattoos. You absolutely cannot show tattoos. It's unprofessional and you shouldn't do it.
Depending on where you are.
Sure, and I think it's getting more lax as time goes on, and we're going to discuss that in a second. But my context, and I want to just put this out there because I want to know what everyone thinks, basically. And I'll tell you what I think. I have a tattoo on my leg, which is mainly based around the design of a skull.
Yeah.
So there's a skull on the back of my calf, and that means that I can't wear shorts, basically. That's what I think anyway, and what the rules of the school would probably stipulate that in any school I've been in, that I can't wear shorts. And I've been going backwards and forwards because, as you know, we do this podcast, we have strong opinions on stuff. And I kind of have landed on the side where I actually agree with that. I think I actually agree that I should not have that out on display when I'm in school as a teacher. And it kind of goes against a lot of my other politics and beliefs and liberal ideas of, everyone does what they want. Kids will learn from different people. We can't demonize these tattoos and stuff. There are amazing people out there who happen to also have tattoos. And if someone dyed their hair and stuff that we'll come on to later, I'd have less of a problem with that. But I think because it's a skull, I actually myself have never brought it up and I've never got it out. And I've never said to someone, oh, is it okay, by the way, if I just wear shorts? Because I actually think that I shouldn't. Whereas one on my arm, it's a bird and a rose tattoo.
Yeah.
I now am much more comfortable just wearing short sleeve shirts when it's PE, and it doesn't bother me whatsoever. So I don't know, where do you stand on teachers' professionalism and specifically tattoos? And we'll get into more broad conversation in a second. Like, what would you do in my situation? What do you think?
I think there's a wider issue there. And we'll come to the whole, like, what the content of the tattoo is in a bit, I think, because that's a kind of almost a different point. But like tattoos in general, I just think it feeds this kind of snobby, like having the attitude that it's not okay, to me feeds this kind of snobby attitude culture of like, oh no, it just looks beneath me.
Sure.
And it has this kind of like it's like the class system in my head.
Yeah.
Because do you know what? When I've seen teachers with loads of tattoos, it's always in places like behavioural units. Yeah. And schools where the behaviour is not as good, or children go
special educational needs schools.
And it's like, and they always have, and it's like, oh, is that because they're like, oh no, they're
it's
not
disgusting.
We don't really like those schools are not mainstream, so we don't really care about them. So they can have the tattoos.
Horrible
but
attitude.
Us in our mainstream school, do we really want nice, normal children?
Oh, don't say that.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, that makes me feel
uncomfortable. I'm like, oh, I don't like that. I really, really don't like that it's just okay in these other schools. Because it says to me, it just stinks of like a social class system. And it's like, they're just not as important. Because you're important, therefore you couldn't possibly. And then I can imagine this even higher class of like, oh no, tattoos are disgraceful. You will be fired from the school. Children never get a tattoo. Only scumbags get tattoos. It
actually made me feel a bit sick when you said
normal
and
good,
normal.
Because that's what it feels like. And so for me, I'm quite liberal with that sort of stuff. I think it's mad that it's okay. If it was a blanket thing in the entire country and every single person agreed on it, I'd have less of a problem. But because it's not a blanket thing and it's okay in some places and not okay in other places, and very much down to almost the opinion really of like the head teacher or the governor's body, I'm just like, well, that's just mad then. I just think whatever the lowest denominator is, it should all just be that then, because why should we have...
That's really interesting, because the lowest denominator can be a really dangerous bar to set. Like if you think in general, the lowest denominator, everything's fine, then like...
Yeah, I think so.
I think you've got to bring people up sometimes. Like you can, the lowest denominator isn't always where everyone should be.
Okay, maybe, but I don't know. But I really just don't have a problem with people.
In this respect, are you talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, tattoos. So let's dive in then. So
who cares?
I actually agree in terms of if I saw someone else with just like a pattern tattoo, I've seen there's people I've worked with before who have like a little flower on their wrist or something, or something completely harmless, and I would think that was crazy if someone had a problem with that. I would genuinely back them up and be like, no, what are you mad?
So where's the line then?
Exactly, because I think my arm tattoo would be absolutely fine to have on display.
Because it's a bird, not a skull.
It's a bird and a rose. Like, who's going to have a problem with that? I just think, personally, having my skull tattoo out on my leg, which I really like, and I would never not have got this.
Yeah.
In that situation of being a teacher, does it just throw up more questions than it needs to?
Would you ever show a cartoon picture of a skull and crossbones when you're doing a lesson on pirates?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, of course you would. Like, would you ever show any images of skulls? Yeah, like we do stuff with skulls in it at school. Kids love skulls. They're well fun.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. What's the problem? I suppose there is a conversation there about, but equally in society, there is something we do agree on across the whole of culture, which is kids should not be exposed to everything that adults should be exposed to by a certain age, right? So there is definitely a line to say, actually, though, if you came in and you had like a massive swear word like written up your leg,
obviously,
and it's like, okay, that's a difference. That's not about you having I don't have a problem with you having tattoos. That would just be the same as I also wouldn't let you come in with a picture of that in any capacity ever in a school. Whereas a skull is like, well, there's nothing wrong with a skull. So I think you're putting maybe a bit more pressure on yourself.
Maybe
to think, that's bad. You should ask. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't know, because the point being, again, we've talked about this a million times, and this does link into professionalism as well. So I think in tattoos we're kind of on the same page, where I think we do need to step into the 21st century in general and just be like, let's just apply what we would apply in every situation. If I walked in, right, holding a picture of a person who's nude, who's naked, right? That would be a huge problem and obviously be really stupid to do.
Yeah.
And I'd get in huge trouble, rightly so, and it's completely inappropriate.
Yeah.
So if that was on my body as well.
Yeah, he came in like a naked woman on the chest or something.
Clearly still horribly inappropriate and should be, you
you cannot show that.
I guess if I came in with a picture of a skull, people would just go, oh, what's that for? And crack on with their day.
Yeah.
And I guess you're right. Maybe that's a really good barometer to have. But let's push now into, I suppose, professionalism in general. And I think a big talking point is clothing. Now, we've done a whole conversation about the difference between male and female and expectations of what to wear and the practicalities of what to wear. I kind of don't really want to go into that whole debate again because we've done it a million times. But I think what is something that's linked to this is, teachers being professional and teachers having this idea of, you are this, you need to get into this pigeonhole because that's what teachers look like. What's your opinion on clothing policies in general? Like, is the line too far formal? Is it not?
Well, again,
practicalities
I'm
of teaching?
really, really liberal with this stuff because my general opinion, like a really overview opinion on everything is just, does it affect the way if it doesn't affect the way I do my job, I just don't think we should care about it. And I know there are counter arguments to it, we'll come back to in a minute. But that's generally how I think. I'm like, is it going to change my teaching ability if I come in a t-shirt or a shirt?
It would actually change it for me, and I'd be way more comfortable in a t-shirt.
Yeah, you'd be more comfortable.
And that means it'd change it for better.
And then it just leads me to the question, the wider question is, what do we mean by professional then? Like everyone mentions professionalism all the time, and it's like, okay, have we actually got an agreed definition of this, or is it just a word we use?
Yeah, it's a collar.
Is it a posh way of saying, I don't like that you're wearing that or doing that, and I've decided that? Like, what is professionalism then? And what makes you less professional?
Yeah.
Can you think of an answer to that?
Well, traditionally, it would involve what you're wearing. And I suppose that's the point we're making. Do we need to step out of that? Because I would argue way more as a judge of professionalism is the quality of your work and, your effort and your what's the word I want to look for? Like how good you are at something.
If you got 8 more tattoos and came in a t-shirt and shorts, just came in this, like just casual wear, would people judge you, do you think, that you're not as professional and therefore probably not as good at your job?
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
But is that true? No, you're still just the exact same person. Like,
so a lot of it, I suppose, then is optics is what we're saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's down to what... It's down to, like, I think sometimes people who wield that power are scared of what other people will think.
Yeah.
Rather than, I suppose, being proactive and taking the line of, no, this is fine. If you think different, you're completely entitled to that. But what I see from my end is a bloody good teacher who teaches things well, who has a rose on their arm. There are some people who express themselves in what they wear.
Yeah.
And you might have a very loud pattern on their top that day. So
the big counter argument I've always heard for this kind of thing, and it is a good counter argument in my opinion, I don't really know, maybe we can explore it now. Okay. It's very much that, yeah, okay, this is all great, but at the end of the day, in the UK, we have uniform policies for the kids.
Sure.
Right? And if we are modelling if we are leading by example with the kids, is it really fair for us to come and do whatever we want, and then when the kid's shirt's untucked, well, I'm going to tuck your shirt in because that's the policy, we have this uniform policy. Because I don't disagree with uniform policy. I actually think it's a good thing to have uniform policy because I don't think allowing kids to wear whatever, I think it's worse when kids wear whatever they want because it opens up a whole new social thing of like kids wearing designer clothes and
kids wearing the same clothes 3 days in a row,
taking the mick out of each other for their clothes. Uniform just gets rid of all that. So I kind of like uniform, but then I feel hypocritical if I'm like, yeah, I'm super liberal. People do what you want. It doesn't change your personality the way you look or what you wear. But kids, wear all the same thing, please. Do
you ever think that so this is really interesting. You're talking about you're personally quite liberal with this kind of thing now. Do you ever have to step back and think, this is what I personally believe, but it's not practical, and I think in practice we should have a different rule? Is that what you're saying now, or are you so entrenched in what you think that should be the rule for everyone? Like, because I would argue with you, I think we're both quite similar in what we think there, but I think I'm just a bit more practical. So what I would say about that is, it all depends on the line. It's like, you're allowed to be liberal on when you think people should do what they want, but it is different when you've got a job. It just is. It's like the kind of people who say free speech, like a free speech above everything. Free speech is so important. It's like, yeah, but I can't go into school and say something racially discriminating because I would lose my job, and that would be completely fine.
Yeah.
Like there'll be people who say, oh no, free speech, you should be able to say what you want. It's like, yeah, you can, but then people can react how they want as well. And I suppose the point I'm making is when it's in a profession and a job and you're getting paid and you're doing a job for someone else, there is a line there where that person can draw the line closer to you in terms of liberal normalness. And of course I'm allowed to go and get a tattoo of a skull on my arm.
Yeah.
No one's stopping me from doing that. But what the person employing me is saying is, if you want to work for us, though, there are some red lines here, and I don't want you to cross them. Like, do you think that's okay?
In a way, because I get the point, right? It's like we're all virtue signaling to each other all the time because it's really hard to understand each other. We're all very complex. So there's just this bar that's set where it's like, we just, if you fit this kind of category, stay inside the circle, then that's a good indicator that you might be the right person.
But I mean, in general, like I've chosen to work in a school, for example, where the rule is this. I've broken the rule because of my free will and I'm allowed to do so. Is it my place to argue and say, no, well, sorry, I'm allowed to do this, so I should be able to work for you? Or does the person employing me have the right to say, well, no, I choose who I employ and I don't want to employ someone who does that?
It's a tricky line, isn't it? Because that's the whole debate about discrimination, I think.
But you can't employ someone as a teacher who's not qualified as a teacher. Well, you can. That's the problem.
But you can't also not employ someone because they're pregnant. There's a whole I think there's a whole line of discrimination there of like what falls into discrimination and what's just
I guess that's the point I'm making, and like where does the line draw?
Yeah, and I think I'm pretty set on. I am just more liberal than you. I think I am pretty set on. Nope, I think it is discriminatory. I think if someone could come in tattooed from head to toe, right, and the idea that they don't get the same chance at a job, or maybe even don't get the job because of it, I'm just like, that's mental.
Yeah, I agree.
I just don't think that should be the policy. I don't care. And if the parents have a problem with it, then the leader that's employed them because they're a really good teacher should have the balls to go out there and be like, nope. There you go. You can't. I've employed this person because they're really good at their job. Why are you all judging them because they've got some tattoos?
No, you made a really good point. I completely agree. Actually,
the only thing is just I just want to go back to though. That the only difference is that kids are protected. So if your tattoos crosses the line of like profanity and inappropriate representation images, I do think there is still an absolute clear line on. Yeah, but that's just not okay in any situation.
That's actually nothing to do with tattoos. No. The point you're making.
Yeah. The wider point of having tattoos or not having tattoos. I think it should always just be okay to do that because it's none of our business and it doesn't make any difference to someone's personality if they choose to get one or not.
Okay, so going back to clothing then. So I guess the point we want to make here is clothing policies. So policies that people put in place are entrenched a lot of the time in like, honestly, Victorian era kind of standards. If you think about the modern workplace, number one, a lot of people work from home a lot of the time. We're not able to do that, and that's fine. And I do think that teaching is best done in front of someone, but by a professional for most of the children's time. I think that's the best way to do it. But even if you go into the workplaces these days, people are in trainers, people are in t-shirts all the time. These top level. Okay, a lawyer going into a court case isn't. They're wearing a certain thing. Yeah. But that's kind of represented in how much money they're often paid.
Yeah. And once again, it's a really important job, so they've got to look smart. The rest of you just do little office jobs. It's that whole culture thing. That's what I hate. It always boils down to that back to me in my head when I go down this logic train of, but I suppose that is a really important. Lawyers, of course, they can't. It does just boil down to because we think they're important. And we've for some reason attached importance to like looking.
Well, they are important.
Yeah, they are.
So, but we think they should look a certain way.
I think what we think is looking important looks like this.
But is someone working at the till at a supermarket not important?
Of course they are.
Exactly.
But no one cares about what they wear.
Exactly. Completely society structure.
Because actually in society we do deem them as not as important.
Yeah. Are bin people important? I say bin people. I'm trying to be very PC here. Bin men. Okay, I know some women collect bins, but are bin men important?
Yeah, of course they're extremely important. Society relies on them, otherwise we'd have trash everywhere.
Yeah, and disease and I completely agree with you. And I suppose the next few points here are all the same. Hair colour. Nails. Are your nails a certain color or you've got longer nails done? I've had colleagues before who've come up to me and said, in the holidays I got my nails done. I had nice red nails. And I was like, where are they then? So I had to get rid of them for school. What?
Yeah.
Are you mad? And not you, but is this system mad? Where you feel that?
There's probably some little nuances of everything. Like maybe someone's policy against long nails is you work with kids all day. You might scratch someone in the face or something. There's like little things where I'm like, okay, I kind of get that. But when it's just based on we don't like the look of that.
Yeah.
Because that's red, and red we've decided is not good. If your nails were blue, that would be all right. So what do you mean? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, completely. And I guess I want to go back to the hypocrisy that you feel then. I really want to dig into this. I want to get your opinion then. Because, for example, if a member of staff came in, let's say I dyed my hair bleach blonde, right? I think that should be absolutely fine.
Yeah, and it probably would be. Because we've decided the blonde is an okay colour.
Yeah, good point. But yeah, so not a natural color, I suppose, but normally is. Let's say I go a bit blue. Like a lot of people, like some streamers did that recently. Kids, people who look up to went a bit blue. Let's say I just had a blue streak in my hair, right? Realistically, I think that should be fine. Personally, I don't think that should be a problem whatsoever. And it's a lot more common with women, obviously, because women tend to dye their hair more than men. If they come in, like I saw once one of our colleagues got their hair dyed silver. And I thought it looked so cool.
Yeah, it looked nice.
I thought it was really good.
It was just like a shade. It was almost just a bit different to blonde, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't blonde.
Had a nice like silvery twinge.
It was silver, and she had to change it for school.
Yeah,
and I thinking, because someone complained. Again, it's not even like a proactive thing. It's just someone else's opinion on something.
Good job they did, because she was a terrible teacher during the time that her hair was silver.
Right, exactly. Did it? No, she's a fantastic teacher. Always has been. And do you know what? She probably felt great about herself during that time. And was even better. Like I just think self-care in that kind of respect is so important. But
like I said, though, with clothing, like the counter argument always comes back to me, and I always struggle with this.
Well, I was going to say a kid can't do it.
Is the kids like
kid
can't dye their hair. Is the wider problem that it's like, okay, well, let's not care about that either then. Like, do I really care if a kid gets excited and inspired by their favourite streamer or footballer and wants to come in with that haircut for a bit? Like, does it really matter, genuinely?
Well, to me, I've always found it mad when people talk about extreme haircuts. I'm like, what? You can't... There are some schools now still, if someone came in with a skinhead, that's it. No, sorry, you can't do that.
Imagine 15 years ago, a kid coming with a top knot.
15
years ago, that's extreme, that's ridiculous. But now it's like, oh no, it's not extreme anymore because society.
That's so true. It just shows how
that's not extreme
mad it is. Yeah, it's all about societal kind of thing.
Yeah, I just like, can we just scrap this whole? It's just rubbish.
We're too worried about what people think.
Yeah, that's it. And we give it too much meaning. We need to stop giving it so much meaning. It doesn't matter. And then there's one more hypocrisy, which is, and I know you've said you don't want to talk about it, but I'm going to quickly mention it, which is just between men and women, and it is just completely mad how different the rules are. And I actually think it boils down to a classic like patriarchal,
almost flipped the other way.
I think it boils down to it's the same thing. Oh no, men are so important. You can't. It's okay if the women wear sandals, but men, you're so important. I think it stems from that, which is just ridiculous in my opinion.
And that's an example of how perhaps that kind of patriarchal can impact men badly as well. It's not a good thing for anyone to pretend that. Like I don't honestly, I don't care. Like I made the joke a million times. If I turned up in sometimes what my female colleagues turned up in, I'd be turned away at the door.
Yeah, you wouldn't be allowed.
Not just because I'm wearing a dress, but because I'm wearing the same level of casual or smart casual wear. If I wore the same level, there would be questions. Everyone I walked past would be saying, "Oh, you having a day off?" That kind of thing.
I reckon I could walk into any school and find a member of staff wearing skin tight leggings,
100%,
right? And a top that maybe doesn't even quite cover their bum, so it's all skin tight, so you can very much see. Some sort of sandals or just really comfy footwear. So your opinion, and a baggy top.
Your opinion there would that be wrong?
No,
exactly.
But I'm just saying, I reckon I could walk into any school and find someone, and I reckon 0% of the time that's a man.
Yeah.
It's always, of course it is. And I reckon we'd never find a man doing that. I reckon the most lax you'd get is someone wearing like chinos where their ankles are out and they're wearing
but you see a lot sometimes even in Scotland as well. I've seen before, maybe not Scotland in general, but a school in Scotland. I saw someone wearing, a flannel shirt with like a t-shirt underneath, and the flannel shirt was open. Smart casual basically. And I just think to myself, what harm is that doing to anyone? Apart from, I would feel so much more comfortable teaching in that, because you know what? Primary school teaching is very active. You are all over the place.
Trousers and a tucked-in shirt.
It's mad. It's not sat at a desk. It's crazy. I never, ever, ever wear a tie because you do sometimes, and I'm like, what are you doing?
I haven't done it in years. Used to.
But again, I'm like, some people want to wear a tie. I'm never going to say don't do it. But from my point of view, I'm just like, that's just going to get in the... No.
I think it's mad. I used to, genuinely, because I used to value the whole thing more. But now I'm way more like, I don't care. I don't actually care about the way we look. I'm just going to wear the comfiest thing that I can, that I own. But, okay, quick, we'll leave this conversation, but just quick one to listeners, right? So just think about this. And I want you to just recognize maybe your own subconscious or subliminal biases and thoughts and opinions, right? Would you act or think differently if I walked into your school wearing the male equivalent to the person in your school, you can think of them right now, who wears the most relaxed clothing? Would you judge me and think about the fact that I'm wearing that in a different way to the person who already wears that happens to be a female? And I think the answer to everyone's going to be, yeah, absolutely, because that's just the way society's gone.
But I think as soon as they saw your face, they'd be like, oh, God,
I'm not this guy.
Who's this guy?
Yeah.
Okay, so leave that to one side now in the school. I want to talk quickly about, the idea of professionalism outside of school, something that is, it's just, again, something I just kind of accepted when I started teacher training, and just like, okay, yep, that's part of the job. That's cool. And when you actually sit and think about it, this strand that's in the teacher standards, it's almost like a separate strand. It's like a separate thing to all the stuff you should do in school. There's just like a very short paragraph, which is essentially describing that as teachers as well, to maintain the teacher standards, to be a professional and maintain your status as a teacher, you need to meet these standards. You must have a level of, it's very vague, a level of professionalism at all times.
Yeah, outside of school.
In every teacher's contract that they've signed, we have basically agreed to maintaining 24/7 levels of professionalism. And I want to ask you about, where's that line then? Like, because again, school to school might have very different things. I know schools where even it being known that you went to the pub and had 3 or 4 pints, if parents found out about it, it would be a problem on your part. That kind of thing. It would be, you got to be careful when you go out, because there were parents at that pub and you're a bit drunk. So, outside of work, getting drunk at a local place, going to a concert and there are parents there and you're a bit tipsy. Is that acceptable?
That's acceptable. Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. Is there a line at all of professionalism outside of work? And it boils down to what the hell's professionalism? Probably. And I reckon it came from a good place. Like, would it be okay if I was single and I was just outrageously flirting with one of the parents on the playground at the end of the day, or even just outside of school? Would that be okay with you? Like the kids in my class, and I'm just really flirting with them, and I want to start dating this parent, and I only know them through work, through school, because they dropped their kid off.
Oh my, that's really stumped.
Because that's the kind of thing to me when they're talking about professionalism. It's like,
I'd say no.
It's like kind of just keep a distance between, like, keep your work and
I'd say definitely
separate.
At least while they're still in your class.
Yeah, do
you know what I mean? But you say, Hayden, you say keep your work life and things separate. We both got with teachers who we worked with.
I know.
Like that's as close as it gets to work. But I agree. There is a line. If the kid's in your class and you're single and you, I personally would just steer away from that as a personal choice of just don't bother with that, because if it goes, God, it's only going to go wrong, and it's going to detriment you. Should you lose your job? Are you not meeting a standard if you date a parent whose kid goes to your school? I think that's really dangerous if we say yes.
Isn't it?
I think that's dangerous.
I don't know.
So,
I don't know what the answer is, because I'm very aware of my own indoctrination into our society. So I know that my thoughts and opinions sometimes are very much based on the fact that I've grown up in this society for 30 years. So of course my opinions will be somewhat aligned to it. But I don't know. I don't know what there's loads of examples, isn't there, of professionalism. I think they're the fringe ones that people talk about are the ones that get people really like, should I be allowed to drink alcohol out? Yeah, of course you should. And I don't think actually probably many schools would give a crap if you were seen out in a pub. I think the difference is, if you were seen out in a pub and you were breaking the law, or you were standing on top of the bar, like being a nuisance, like being horrible, doing something where the police get called, that is a bit like, I guess the idea is you're always representing the school, whether you like.
That's why it's in there. That's the whole point. I think with a lot of jobs, you step out of the role as soon as you leave. Teaching still has maintained, without the level of wealth that it used to create for people and put them right in the upper middle classes if they were teachers. It doesn't happen anymore, but we still kind of maintain that idea of that social structure of no, I'm in this profession which is very respected, and I'm a teacher, don't you know, and I'm in the upper middle classes now. Not anymore, we're not, but also we still got to maintain that kind of societal expectation,
and we can't change the fact that other people seeing you outside of work will think, oh, that's the teacher from so-and-so. We can't actually make people not think that.
No, of course. And I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah. So the fact that they're doing that does lead me to be a little bit lenient with the idea that we should just be aware that even when we're not teaching, to a lot of people, whether we're inside the classroom or not, we are still seen as the teacher from that class. So if we're seen as the teacher from that class by people, and we're doing things that are against the law or like unruly, like just
or
generally
bitching on a podcast,
we'll get to that in a minute, and things like that. Like I think there is a place for it at least to be looked at and considered. Whether there should be a blanket like you broke the rule, you lose your job. I think that's different, but.
Perhaps that's the whole point of why it's there and why it's vague. I think it is just there for. There's always going to be a grey line with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's there for those grey lines to try and catch as many teachers in the net as possible. To be like, just don't push it. So I think me and you and most teachers we know will have this in the back of our mind now because it's written down. And we'll go out for a drink, we'll go out for a curry, we'll have like 4 or 5 pints, we'll be a bit tipsy. But always in the back of the head, we're just like, oh, let's not get blackout drunk like I'm at university because I know that. And I think that's what that does. It just catches those people in that net. Those people who want to sit there and intricately pick out, which is me. I like having a line somewhere, and I'm very much like that with everything. I want to know where the line is, what I can go up to and go past.
Why don't you swear on this podcast? That's a question for you. Yeah. Why don't you swear on this podcast?
Because I swear in real life all the time.
I swear a lot.
Yeah, I think it is that. Yeah. I think if I worked in my old job, and I always go back to this because I worked in a supermarket, so that's my go-to when I'm comparing stuff. I'm not labeling things as more or less important or anything like that. But I worked in Asda, and now I work as a teacher. If I worked in Asda still right now and I did a podcast, I would speak like I speak outside of Asda at all times, and that would involve swearing quite frequently. I'm quite a frequent swearer.
Yeah, do you know why? I think it's quite simple.
Well, it's the expectations.
Yeah,
right?
It's because also when you leave your Asda job, there's no expectation that people can walk around and be like, oh, that's the guy from Asda.
Well, might do because I do it.
They might do, but a bunch of hundreds of kids see you, and there are rules and expectations at your work that are quite strict in terms of like profanity and how you act. To then break those rules outside where people could just easily see you is different. Whereas really at Asda, it's like...
Would you swear if there was a guarantee that no kids would ever see it, but some parents might, obviously, because they're adults. If there was a guarantee no kids would ever see it, would you still... I think I would still not swear.
Oh, no, I would, because that's just me. Because I'm very naturally quite sweary anyway. And I think you...
Even if the parents at your school would see it, you'd still swear?
Oh, well, the parents at the school.
That's what I mean. Like, just children can't see it.
No, because the parents and the kids, they come like with little unit in my head of like... Because I know, it's like we had that conversation about AI reports, right?
Yeah.
I know that AI reports are okay, but I'm very aware that other people have misinformation or have a stigma about it, right? That is powerful enough still to get me in trouble. So it's like you still have to address it appropriately, because it doesn't matter if I think it's okay. If 32 parents unanimously don't think it's okay, even if I think they're wrong, it doesn't matter still, because they can still get me in trouble for it.
I guess that goes back to tattoos and stuff.
Yeah, I guess so.
Same kind of thing. So that's interesting. Yeah.
It's basically, it's way, when we started this conversation, I was like, it's going to be pretty simple. I'm just liberal. It's all short, okay. Yeah. But actually, it's way more complex.
Yeah. 100%.
Way more complex. I think if there are lines, and there always are, I reckon they could probably be moved a little bit. I think we could be a bit more lenient on what people wear at school, a bit more lenient on whether tattoos are okay as a blanket, yes or no. A little bit more lenient on what teachers can do outside of work without having to worry about everything.
Yeah, some kids have parents who have tattoos. Loads of kids have parents who have tattoos. Like, what are we kind of setting up there if they go to school and like the teachers couldn't possibly show a tattoo? Yeah. It's like, my mum and dad have tattoos. Yeah. Oh no, but not the teachers could have.
Yeah. Oh no, we only represent a portion of society that we think is actually important. Sorry, your parents not in it.
Yeah, it's mad.
It is. Yeah, it all goes back to culture. All goes back to society, class, and all that.
Okay. Yeah. So thinking about us then, in terms of, obviously we're teachers, and we just talked about how we wouldn't swear on this podcast. We swear on this podcast. We wouldn't date someone if we were single. We wouldn't date someone at school. We are doing a weekly podcast where although we don't swear, we are very much filter off, and we say exactly what we think about education and the job.
And we're pushing the rules a bit, because I know that when we started this, we were a bit scared about doing that.
A little bit, yeah.
We were, and I think we've got a bit more relaxed because we're like in the 60s of episodes now. But we definitely
when the 2020s,
we definitely say stuff now, I think, that we absolutely would have cut out of our first episodes, because we would have been scared of someone might misrepresent that.
But do you think anything we've ever said has been unprofessional?
Probably.
Do you think?
Probably based on the line of what professionalism is.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, I reckon so.
What?
I can't think of exactly what, but I imagine we have...
Well, think about today. Is it unprofessional for us to do what we've just done? Like, should we bin this whole episode? Like, is it unprofessional for us to
critique the system?
Should we have this? Should we be having this conversation in private, like with the people who are in charge? Or is it okay to air what we think about stuff? I am really, really, really strong of belief now of the other liberal way, where me talking about something or my opinions on something is absolutely worth saying, because I only think you'd be scared of that if you know it's stupid, but you don't want people to know it. So anyone listening to this who's like, no, don't say that. Come here and we'll talk about it. I'll be like, well, why can't I say it? Because what's going to probably happen in that situation is you're going to put your arm around me and say, no, look, I know it's crazy, isn't it? But that is the rule.
Yeah, I guess I'm more a fan of open forums in general, because I think it does remove that chance that you're just going to get gaslit into thinking something in private.
Yeah.
And it's a bit more like, it's harder to out someone when it's in a public forum when you actually want to be manipulative and gaslighting towards them.
True.
So like, if you're in an open forum, it's like, well, everyone's my witness.
Yeah.
Everyone's my witness. This is what I said. Everyone else saw what I said.
And then now what you've got to do is argue against what I said rather than trying to manipulate me into thinking something else.
Yeah. Or trying to convince everyone else that I said something I didn't because it was in a private conversation. That happens a lot.
Okay, so I guess the further point here, that one of the last points I suppose we're going to make before we play a little game is, I know you've got something you want to mention at the end as well about respect, but the last point on this social media kind of thing, we were drilled when we trained to be a teacher, and I guess social media wasn't new, but it was still early on. We're a good, let's say Facebook was founded in 2004. Yeah. We're a good 20 years into social media now. It's changed a lot. When we were training, it was 10 years old. So still it was developing, still it was at a certain point. And at that point, it was very much, no, have everything private. You shouldn't be able to, don't. And there was even a train of thought that said, don't even have your face in your profile picture.
Yeah, don't even have it.
Well, don't have it for a long time. But if you have it, don't have your face and do a name that no one can find. So like a lot of teachers now, if you look online, they might use their middle name as their surname because obviously if my name's Mr. Price, it might be Dylan Blank or it might be your initials or something like that. So some things I don't want to out other people I know. Yeah, exactly.
That kind of thing.
So if you see that on Facebook, it's probably from that or not wanting to be found.
Most teachers do.
But I think that's changed a lot. And I guess what I'd say to you is now that was drilled into us. We put this podcast out to public. We have an Instagram page. Yeah, absolutely open to the public on our podcast Instagram. We have a Facebook page, which is our tutoring. We have a YouTube, which is just us. Everything's completely open. We're playing the role as teacher on our tutoring videos. We are Mr. Price and Mr. Stevens who plan and deliver lessons. Here, we're kind of going even further into our personal life and explaining what we think. For all we know, some parents might literally listen to this podcast and genuinely, you might enjoy it and think it's cool. But I am the teacher of their children at the end of the day. Have we gone too far?
I don't think so. And do you know what's funny? I still think we are confining ourselves in the rules because we're still playing characters. We're playing a character right now. We're not being me and you. Yeah. And I know we're not because as soon as this podcast ends, we'll go back into real me and you who swear a lot and make stupid jokes.
Don't tell them this is fake.
We do, and we'll say things where people look at us and think we're weird. We're still characters, and I think that's the difference. That there is still a big difference, I think, between even what we're doing and true social media, where you're just being yourself.
But isn't everyone putting on a character? When I'm with different people, I act differently.
Of course.
This is how I would act probably around 80% of my colleagues at school. Am I acting then, or is that me? Like, at what point is it not you? Like, am I only ever me in front of like two people?
Social media to me, right, is like it's just an amplifier.
Sure.
It is like just getting a massive loudspeaker for your personal life. So I kind of understand why,
But we don't post on our personal pages.
No, I know, but other people do. And I'm trying to talk about like the rules of like.
No, completely. I'm just saying for us, you're absolutely right. Like, we don't actually post our personal lives at all online, really.
No.
But we post a lot when it comes to our characters we're playing.
Yeah. And that might include our personal lives. I get it. But like, just going back to just think about it more generally, I suppose, not just me and you, like the social media policies. A lot of schools are very, very harsh blanket. Like, you cannot use social media, basically. You cannot do these things. And if you do, it has to be so private that no one can ever find you. And I kind of get it in a way because it's an amplifier. Like, if you're out in a restaurant and you said something that really was against the grain that people might genuinely take a massive offense to and disagree with, and you're like, it's just my opinion, but it's a bit on the line, right? You're entitled to that opinion, but as a teacher, there is that professionalism that we've talked about. That in a restaurant could be quite bad. Someone's seen you out, a parent's overheard you talking about this. Imagine putting it on social media where, one, it's there forever. It won't get forgotten in a week. It's not only two people heard it, it's anyone that ever wants to watch it and they can look at it forever. That to me is like, that's just such another level of like...
It's almost protecting the teacher and saying...
Yeah, I actually think it is protecting the teacher. I don't think, despite everything I've said, I don't think social media rules of teacher... about professionalism, I don't think they're necessarily bad. I think sometimes they can go a little bit over the top because it's really what they're saying is it's all probabilities, isn't it?
We don't trust you to control it yourself.
Yeah, it's like, I do trust you, but
not really.
There's a chance maybe that one time out of 7,000 times you will say something or you'll get really riled up in a conversation online and end up saying something really harsh and it will go viral.
Who are you talking about?
Me. And you'll represent the school because everyone will think, oh, that's that teacher from that school.
Definitely.
And it'll be terrible for us. So much worse than if you'd just done it in public.
The person who taught us ICT when we were training to be a teacher had the story of when he first started and first got Facebook, he was teaching, obviously, and Facebook first became a thing. And someone tagged him in a post. They'd been out in the pub. And he was simply sat at a table, which had like 8 beers on it. Right, and he got tagged in a post, and he got pulled in by his head.
No.
And said, "You're gonna have to tell him to set a photo down. You're gonna have to tell him to get a picture
Yeah.
down." And I think again at the start of social media, when there was very much like no, nothing at all.
Yeah.
And he told us that story, and he was still of the opinion even then. He was like, "So guys, listen, if you get social media, don't put your face in the picture. That's why you see loads of people with a cat. But
isn't that just scare tactics? Like, that says to me, right? Someone quite anxious could interpret that as, okay, never going to a bar again in case someone else takes a picture of me with a pint.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's not even me doing it at this point. Now, that's what makes
Something
me think,
completely legal, by the way.
Yeah.
And very normal.
Yeah, maybe that's the line. When it's legal and socially accepted, if it ticks both of those things.
But that's not professionalism, though, is it? Because professionalism is a made-up line we've put that's closer to the grain than that. Otherwise, we wouldn't need a line of professionalism. We just say legal. So there is that. The reason we have professionalism is because we brought that line way back and said, and someone's decided, and I guess this whole conversation is who decides and where should that line be.
So what I'm saying is,
don't have
it needs to be pushed more back towards the legal thing. Maybe it's just closer. I don't know. Maybe it's not quite on the thing. Because is it legal? Is it legal for me to get blackout drunk and start walking through the streets singing?
Yeah.
It's legal.
I don't know, actually. Drunk and disorderly. Probably not.
Oh, maybe not. Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Maybe the whole generally.
Is it legal for you to
accepted.
swear? Of course it is.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's a point.
Yeah. Is it legal for me to get into an argument with someone and start swearing at them?
Yeah.
It's legal.
Yeah.
But if it was a parent, would that go down well? No.
Yeah.
Do I think it should go down well? No, not really. Because I also think in society we generally think you're a bit of an arse if you're shouting in someone's face and swearing, no matter how heated the argument.
We do think you're an arse.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe just a bit more towards the is it legal and generally socially accepted? Like
that is true though, because I'm a bit hot-headed. I get annoyed quick. Like some people might get upset, and some people might get more reserved and like timid or shy and stuff. I get annoyed really quick at stuff. I might read something about what a thing they've done.
We've heard Dylan's rants on this podcast.
No, but I'll very quickly. My emotion is anger, and just like emotion might be upset, or my emotion is just annoyed, and I know that. So if I reacted by getting upset by something, or if I reacted to the same thing by getting annoyed at something really you can't actually really control. And we've talked loads about how we talk to kids about how you can't actually control these emotions.
Yeah.
There is a societal kind of prejudice, not prejudice, but you think you see one as much worse than the other. It's like, don't get angry. Don't get angry. Yeah. Oh, you're upset. And when someone's upset, you immediately think, oh, you're okay. Could stem from the exact same thing and just be a different chemical reaction in your brain. And I guess the point I'm making is, but one is socially unacceptable. And you're going to face pushback from that. So should I be saying to everyone, no, everyone else, you're wrong. And same for professionalism. No, you're wrong. I should be able to show tattoos. Or should I just accept that the world won't change for me? It's going to be easier for me if I try and control my anger, or it's going to be easier for me if I just cover up my tattoo. Should I accept, okay, that's how it is. Fine, I disagree with it, but I'm never going to change society.
No, I think you should fight back. I think you should make the point. I think just quick on your thing about anger. There, I think it goes down to probability. It's more probable that on social media you're going to get into trouble than real life. I get that's why it's more strict. It's more probable if you get angry you're going to end up being physical or violent in general for people, right? Yeah. I think that's probably why. It gets
completely.
Differently.
Absolutely, and there's loads of different ways you can get angry. There's loads of different ways you can get upset. So there's obviously going to be what people think those things represent.
And anger can be a trigger for other people, and there's loads of stuff to it. We actually need to finish up this podcast soon because we're taking our children swimming.
I'm
10 minutes.
Oh gosh.
So
okay. In that case, we're going to play a very quick game. So we'll play the jingle, then we'll play a game quick.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, guys, really quick game because we do need to go. We do actually have to take our children swimming. Sorry to our girlfriends who are listening. So I've got a game here. We used to play this all the time with my friends because we used to make up these silly games, right? And what would happen is you would have an animal and an emotion, okay? So you know that. So I've got in front of me two animals and two emotions, and they go together. So for example, you might have an annoyed sheep or something like that, okay? So and then you wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
I'd have to make the sound of what an annoyed sheep would make, and you have to guess. And if you get it right, you get 2 points.
Okay.
If you get get 1, you get 1 point.
Okay, that sounds good.
Me and James from Need Financial Planning, we talked about this the other day, and we were like, we need to make this into a board game because it's so funny.
Yeah.
Okay, ready? So let's see if this works. Do you want to go first or me?
So you do the noise.
I'll do the noise, and you got to guess, and you get points based on. We both get points based on.
Yeah. Okay.
Like how many you get.
Go on,
okay.
Guess at home. Play along.
You get 1 point if you get one right.
Yeah.
Either of them. You get 3 points if you get them both right.
So if I get the emotion and the animal.
Right, ready? Here we go. Here's the emotion and the animal. Ready?
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Is it a sad cow?
1 point, and you get another chance now for a bonus point. I'll get it one more time.
Okay.
So you got the cow. Ready?
A confused cow.
It was a shameful cow.
A shameful cow. Just to be clear, we didn't pick these ourselves. We use random generators.
So you got 1 point. Yeah.
We don't get a chance. So I have to do one now.
Yeah. Go.
All right. Okay. Ready?
Yep. Is that an excited sheep?
No. Is it 0 points?
Oh, what?
I suppose. Actually, to be fair. Go on. Okay, ready? Yeah.
Is that a shocked goat?
I pretty might get 1 point. It's a surprised lamb.
Oh, yeah, I get that. A lamb is
lamb.
a sheep.
Lamb's a sheep.
Okay, I get
1 point.
So we're on 1 point each. Okay, ready? My one. Okay, ready?
Yeah. Oh, got another like sheep going on. An annoyed sheep.
Neither of them. Okay, let's go one more time. Ready?
Well, that's a different animal.
That was awful.
Can you please do that again?
Okay, all right.
Do it again.
Ready?
What is that? What is that? A constipated goat.
No, it was a bored toad.
A toad?
They have like a guttural. Next time you do a bored toad.
Okay, it's my last one. Ready?
Right. Yeah.
Ready?
Is that an annoyed bee?
It's kind of a different word.
Okay. An angry bee.
An angry bee. An angry bee. Wow, that was a stupid game. I love it.
That's our game. And you can use that game in class, by the way, to practice vocab. Genuinely.
I'll leave it with this. What emotions do you think our girlfriends will have knowing that we are going to be slightly late?
Are they going to be angry
swimming?
llamas?
Angry llamas, I think. Why are they llamas?
We better go. And when they make a sound to us, we'll be like, oh, is that a...
yeah, we'll play that game.
Right, let's go. Bye.
Anyway.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
Cheers.
Follow us, review us, rate us, do everything.
Bye. And don't get us cancelled.
No, please don't. No, bye.